Chapter 1: Origin and Nature of the Dual Swords Tactic. When referring to Russia's unique military tactics in the 21st century, people often think of iconic concepts such as hybrid warfare, lightning in the air, or strategic preemptive strike. However, in recent years, a new concept has emerged and quickly caused a stir in the international military community: dual swords combined, a figurative term to describe the tactic of combining many types of weapons and many forces to gain absolute superiority in the air. If in Jin Young's martial arts novels, dual swords combined is the ultimate move of the couple Li Shunhuan and Lin Chung, then in the sky of Ukraine it is the ultimate move of the Russian Air Force. On one side are modern fighter jets such as Su-35, Su-57 with long-range attack capabilities. On the other are keep and numerous unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, which act as decoys and pathfinders. These two factors combine to form a pincer attack, causing the enemy's air defense system to always fall into a state of disarray before it can react. 1.1. Why is it two swords combined? Russia is famous for taking advantage of available resources and knowing how to combine old with new. In the context of the war of attrition in Ukraine, launching a series of Shahed 136 unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as Geron-2 in the Russian version, as mobile targets, is not only to attack targets but also to force the enemy to turn on the radar and launch interceptor missiles. When the radar is exposed, when the air defense system uses up its firepower, Russian fighters will immediately launch a decisive attack with XH-59, XH-31 cruise missiles, or even Kinjal hypersonic missiles. Simply put, dual swords combined is the tactic of one bait, one kill. The beauty is that the opponent does not know when the real punch will be thrown. It is like two boxers coordinating. One person continuously feints, the other waits for the moment the opponent is careless to deliver a KO punch. 1.2. The origin of this tactic. It is not that Russia has just come up with dual swords combined. In fact, this experience comes from many previous campaigns. Syrian-War, 2015 to 2020. Russia has tested the coordination of reconnaissance UAVs with Su-35 fighters to attack rebel bases. When the UAV detects the target and causes trouble, the Su-35 immediately dives in to drop guided bombs. Chechen War, 1999 to 2009. Although UAVs were not yet popular, Russia adopted the idea of using artillery fire to force the enemy out of hiding. Then the Air Force attacked. Cold War doctrine. Russia once advocated rocket storm, launching long-range missiles to saturate NATO's defenses, then launching strategic bombers. It can be said that combining two swords is not something too new, but a smart reenactment in the era of high-tech weapons. 1.4. Comparison with other tactics in the world. It is not only Russia that knows how to dual swords. The US military in the Iraq War also applied the wild weasel tactic, sending aircraft specializing in radar jamming first, then fighters and smart bombs flying later. However, the difference is that the US has a superior technological advantage, so it often dominates from the start. Russia is different. Under embargo conditions, it has to be creative, turning cheap UAVs into strategic weapons. If we compare, America is like a chef who has all the luxurious ingredients to cook a high-class dish, while Russia is like a housewife who takes advantage of everything in the refrigerator but still cooks a dish that makes the whole village admire. 1.5. A little humor. Two brothers in the sky. Some people compare combining two swords to two brothers fighting in the neighborhood. The small younger brother, the UAV, runs ahead to tease, throw stones, forcing the opponent to chase, while the big older brother, the Su-35, stands waiting as soon as the opponent is careless to rush out and beat them for life. It is this coordination that makes the opponent always in a state of surprise, fatigue, and unable to react. Chapter 2. Russia deploys dual swords tactics on the battlefield map. When it comes to air superiority, we often think of the number of aircraft, the level of pilots, or advanced radar systems.
But in modern warfare, having more is not always advantageous. Russia has shown that they know how to fight more with less, with a tactic that is both creative and quite classic, combining two seemingly unrelated weapons, the Su-57 stealth fighter and the Su-35S heavy fighter. Interestingly, international observers call this way of fighting by a name that sounds like something out of a martial arts novel: dual swords. On one side is the shining sword, the Su-35S, which is big, strong, has a high-powered radar, is highly maneuverable, but is easily detected by the enemy. On one side is the hidden sword, the Su-57, which is smaller, has stealth features, and quietly penetrates the battlefield without the enemy knowing. When combined, they create a pair of cards that NATO must be wary of. Specifically, according to the map of air defense and air force deployment in the Ukrainian battlefield and the western border of Russia, the Su-35S often flies on the outer line, both acting as a decoy and emitting a wide-ranging radar scan. Meanwhile, the Su-57 flies at low altitudes, hiding in the shadow of the enemy's radar waves. When the Su-35S makes the enemy reveal itself by forcing them to turn on their radar or launch missiles, the Su-57 immediately uses its stealth features and long-range weapons to deliver a knockout blow from a distance that the enemy does not expect. The Russians are famous for their military philosophy of few but quality. An Su-57 may not be able to overwhelm an entire enemy squadron, but when it goes dual sword with the Su-35S, it is like a swordsman with a martial arts master by his side, one using open moves, the other using hidden moves, coordinating smoothly. This is the reason why many recent intelligence reports have acknowledged that Russia has gradually gained air superiority in some key areas in eastern Ukraine. And if we look at the map from Belarus stretching down to Crimea, we will see Russian air bases are arranged in a pincer shape from the north of Belarus, the east of Rostov, and the south of Crimea, enough to form a strategic arc. In that arc, the Su-57 does not need to show off, just quietly like a ghost, while the Su-35S plays the role of a loudspeaker to lure the enemy into reacting. A typical example is the air battle recorded by the Ukrainian press in mid-2025. A squadron of Ukrainian MiG-29s had just taken off when they were detected by Russian radar. The Su-35S immediately approached, creating a chase position, forcing the MiG-29s to maneuver to avoid. Meanwhile, from another direction, the Su-57 launched a series of long-range R-77-1 missiles, shooting down two aircraft before they could identify their opponents. This is a rare time when Western analysts publicly admitted that Russia is applying extremely effective parallel tactics. Chapter 3: Meaning, Consequences, and Messages for the Future. What makes combining two swords a turning point? It lies not only in the immediate combat effectiveness, but also in the strategic message that Russia wants to send to NATO. We don't need to play all our cards. Just knowing how to combine them is enough to gain the upper hand. If we analyze deeply, we see three major meanings. Militarily, Russia proves that it is still creative enough in modern warfare, not just dependent on old stuff from the Soviet era. The fact that the Su-57, which has only been produced in limited quantities, has been put into battle in a strategic role is a proof of its ability to hit its own back with its own stick. Stealth, coordination, surprise. Politically, air superiority helps Russia strengthen its position in negotiations. When controlling the sky, ground attacks have a more solid shield, thereby creating leverage in any negotiation. Psychologically, for the Ukrainian army and its allies, facing an opponent they cannot see clearly will create great pressure. War is not only about guns and bullets, but also about mental warfare. And in this aspect, the Su-57 and Su-35S are creating a haunting double ghost. But the question is, will this tactic last forever? In fact, NATO will certainly find ways to neutralize the double sword by upgrading radars, deploying more early warning aircraft, or even using artificial intelligence to analyze unusual signs in the air. In history, no tactic has been unbeatable forever. From the ancient Roman wars to World War II, every innovation has its strengths and weaknesses. For example, Nazi Germany's Blitzkrieg once terrified Europe but was eventually overcome when the Soviet Union and its allies found a way to fight back. Russia's double sword will be the same. Today it may create an advantage, but tomorrow it can force them to come up with a new martial arts move. But considering the current situation, it is undeniable this tactic has helped Russia regain the initiative in the skies over Ukraine. It has not only changed the landscape of air combat, but also reshaped global military thinking. Once again, Russians prove that they are good at cooking from available ingredients. Not too much is needed, just skillful coordination is enough to change the whole chessboard. Conclusion: the double swords joining the stone. The cards have not been revealed yet. Looking back at the entire analysis system, we can conclude that the double swords joining the stone is not only a military tactic, but also a strategic message of Russia in the confrontation with NATO and Ukraine. It is both surprising, creates psychological pressure, and opens up new debates in the international military community. If the sky of Ukraine is considered a martial arts arena, then the Su-35S and Su-57 are two swordsmen dancing together, one openly attacking, the other suddenly invisible, coordinating well to overwhelm the opponent. But like every martial art in a novel, it will also have weaknesses, and the future story is still open. And for us, those who are interested in history and war, this is a vivid proof that war is not only about violence, but also about intelligence, creativity, and sometimes even unpredictable humor. If you find this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to History and War channel to continue accompanying us in the hottest, most profound, and fascinating stories about history and global war.